Hey there, Eli coming at you again from OSA Coventry here today to show off a really interesting family of freshwater fishes. Today I have these beautiful little hatchetfish beside me, and these are really interesting presents for a lot of your more peaceful, community-centered freshwater aquariums. These tend to be one of my favorite additions to a South American type community tank, whether you have tetras or small cichlids, angelfish, histogrammas, things of that nature. I feel like these are really cool presents to those sort of style aquariums, seeing as they occupy just those first couple inches of the water column. As you can see here, these guys really don't stray very far from the first 2 or 3 inches of the top water column, and their body shape kind of reflects them occupying just this top half of the water column. Their backs are almost entirely straight from tip to tail, and this kind of helps them to hold very tightly to the top of the water. And these guys really do very well in very large size schools. They have this really interesting deep-bodied shape to them, but as a very large school, this makes it a little bit more difficult to single a single out from the grouping. And in the aquarium, these guys really do best if you add a good solid number of them to the tank. You will see the best behavior out of these fish if you add probably between 6 and 10 or more at a time, because these guys will really school very tightly, occupy that same very top half of the water column, and they are a bit more comfy in those size of groupings. One thing worth mentioning is, considering they do stick to the top half of the water column and they are often looking upward for food, if they do get spooked, a lot of times the way that they swim is directly up. So they are a fish that definitely benefits from having a tight-fitting lid over the top of your aquarium. If you don't have a tight-fitting lid over your tank, perhaps you got a rimless tank and you still want to add something like this, I would add some surface covering plants, whether those be something like a lily or a lotus that shoots leaves all the way to the surface, or having a good option of floating plants on top of the water. That will help to keep these guys in the aquarium, as they will be less prone to being spooked from above, and they will feel a little more cozy hiding underneath those options. This species behind me is the marbled hatchetfish. You can see they've got a really attractive appearance where they are mostly earthy tones, but they've got a really cool marbled pattern. They kind of vary from white and silver to brown and gold and black, and I think that this coloration makes them really cool. Something that doesn't necessarily pop as well as a bright fish would, but they are still an attractive fish nonetheless. There are probably 5 or 6 species that you might come across in the hobby. Silver hatchetfish are one of the most common, but they get a little bigger. Spotted hatchets are something you might run across as well. And my personal favorite would be the pygmy hatchets that stay a little bit smaller, reaching only about an inch or so. But most of your hatchetfish species are going to reach about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. So they are going to rival a lot of your larger size tetras in that manner, achieving a max size that's probably similar in length to like a rummy-nosed tetra or some of your other large tetras. While these guys do resemble tetras, they actually belong to their own family of fishes, which I find kind of unique. They truly are their own grouping of species, and whereas they might resemble tetras in many ways, are not actually classified as tetras. I would say anything from a 20-gallon long and up for an aquarium would be suitable for most of these guys. Again, they don't achieve a very large max size, and they're not terribly active. Generally, they're going to stick to one side of the aquarium. They will kind of peruse throughout the day. They will move, but they're not the most active swimmers. Generally, they're going to spend more time hovering in that top section of the water column more than anything. And as for food, they're not very picky. Any quality flake or pellet should be suitable for them, and offering some decent variety of frozen food is always important to make sure they're fat and happy. Things like tubifex, bloodworms, and daphnia would be great frozen offerings to add for these guys, and they do take to just about any food pretty well. These are one type of fish that is often captive bred at this point, but a lot of the times the ones that you see in the aquarium store might be from wild origin as well. But they are a very interesting fish, perfect for most of your community tanks, especially a nice well-planted one. And as long as your temperature is between 75 and 82 degrees, you should be quite all right to house these guys long term. As always, thank you all for tuning in. I hope that you learned a little bit about the hatchetfish today in this video. As always, feel free to leave comments, questions, suggestions in the comment section below, and keep it fishy.